So that's a beat that the bass of which you could call 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I call it, and it repeats with a louder sound in the last beat. Kind of traditional, represents the four directions that are sacred throughout North America and other parts of the world. The story that I'm going to offer you now, the sacred narrative, tells about the time again before time, in the old time when the plants and animals could speak with each other and the people, and everyone was considered alive. Rocks and the trees and the streams and the stars and the earth, everything had life force, has life force. So this is a time before the people were created and really before the land was created. So in this old time, in this before time, Coyote was paddling around in his little tule boat out in the water. And he had been paddling around for eons, no one knows how long, just paddling around. And finally, after a while, he said, "This is getting boring. I'm tired of just paddling around. I want to land somewhere and get out and stretch my legs and create some living things so I can have friends." So he thought and he thought and he thought, and finally he had an idea. He called to his very old friend Turtle, and he said, "Turtle, Turtle, come here, I need you." And after a while, Turtle came swimming along and said, "Coyote, I heard you calling me. What do you want?" And Coyote said, "Well, it's time to create the land. And what I'd like you to do is dive down to the bottom of the water and get some soil from the bottom." Turtle said, "Well, it's pretty deep here. I don't know if I can get down that far." Coyote said, "Well, try really hard. You know that old story, if you think you can do it, then maybe you'll find a way." So Turtle took a very deep breath and he dove and he dove and he got about halfway and he lost his wind and came back up and had almost drowned. And he said, I couldn't get there, Coyote. I couldn't get there. It was too far." Coyote said, "Well, try again." So this time Turtle took 2 deep breaths. And he dove and he dove and he dove. And he got way down. He got past the middle where he had gone before. He got just to the very surface of the bottom of the sea. And he had to turn around and come back because he was exhausted again. Got back up there and said, "Coyote, I almost made it, but I just didn't quite get there." Coyote said, "Well, this time take 3 deep breaths." So Turtle took 3 deep breaths. And once again, he dove and he dove with all his strength and power and courage, and he got to the bottom this time. He scraped a little bit of soil under his nails and turned around and came swimming back up, totally out of breath. He said, "Coyote, I did it, but I only got a little bit. It's under my fingernails here." Coyote said, "You are a brave soul. You've done it." And he took the soil that was underneath the fingernails and he said, "Because you've been so courageous, Turtle, we will build the land on your back." And so he took the soil and put it right on the turtle's hard back, and he blew on the soil. And as he blew on the soil, the land spread across Turtle's back, and his little tule boat landed right on the shore. He got out and said, "Oh, now I can stretch my legs. Now I can do some creating here. Now I can make some friends for me and for the world." So he sat on the shore for a while, and he dreamt that night. And in his dream, he had the vision of creating the people and the animals and the plants. In the morning when the sun came up, he called all the birds from all around to where he was sitting there on the shore, and they all came in, and he asked if they would be willing to offer 2 feathers from each of them. And each of the birds was different colors, different sounds, different shapes, different voices. And each of the birds offered him 2 of their feathers, one from one side and one from the other. And he thanked the birds and said, "You will be an important part of creation." And they flew off, and that night, that afternoon or evening, Coyote took the feathers in the pairs and planted them all over the land that he had just created. And then he took a deep breath and blew on all of the feathers, and they moved in the breath, the wind of his breath. But they didn't come alive. And he said, well, they may need to just incubate for a while. And so he went to bed. In the morning, as the sun came up and warmed the land and warmed the feathers came alive. And now the land is covered with people and animals, and each of them has a different voice. Each of them has a different culture, a different shape, a different story. This is how the people were created by Coyote. And every once in a while now, Turtle gets a little antsy too, and he starts wiggling around under the water with the land on his back. Take a wild guess at what that is. You're right, earthquakes.